It
Hi,
looks like
Sean. Oh, hi, Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Okay, sorry. And our guest is on, she's on the line. So Sean, we will be adding, when we're ready for the presentation, elevate to panelist. And Commissioner Jones will not be joining tonight. He's still in Kansas with his mom.
I'm excited. We've got a PSE meeting. I've been missing these.
Yeah, did I send the email? Sorry.
Yeah.
Been one of those days.
I right there with you.
Excellent. All right. Looks like tech worked. Yay. Well, I should wait. Fingers crossed. I shouldn't speak too soon. So,
Tech is working. Tech is working.
it's working. It's working
Yeah.
for now.
I
Yeah.
decided not to do a PowerPoint presentation because that was one
That's
extra
fine.
step, and I'm just like, I'll just talk.
Yeah, and we can always put stuff in the chat, and if you have, and we will definitely share with the other commissioners the study, and like at our September meeting, because we don't meet in August, we can always give a debrief of what we've learned as well.
Great.
So I guess just in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. I know these August or committee meetings are always smaller, so I wanted to start with our guest first, and then Joe, it'd basically be you and I doing some more sort of planning talk about an idea that Commissioner Jones has, and I wanted to sort of talk through it. So I need help with the pronunciation of your name.
Nguyen.
Cook, like an
Yes.
H? Thank you.
No, Cook, like Q.
Oh, Cook.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes. So, hi everyone. My name is Cook Nguyen. I live in Mount Pleasant. I am your Ward 1 Advisory Committee member for the 2023 DC Advisory on Student Assignment and Boundary Assignment Study. Just to give you some what I hope to do is just give you some background, and then to talk about the study, talk about opportunities for participation and where we're at right now in terms of doing the assessment, and also ways in which you can reach out to me if you have specific thoughts and would like to reach out with respect to your specific Ward 1 school. So the Deputy Mayor of Education is in charge of the Boundary and Student Assignment Study in 2023. And the purpose is to review the DC boundaries and feeder patterns and district-wide school assignment, student assignment policies. So that includes, for example, the lottery and various components in terms of student assignments. The boundary study will develop recommendations based on statistics and analytical findings, public input, which is your contributions, while also hopefully advancing racial and socioeconomic equity among public schools in DC. This has been the latest update since the 2013-2014, which DC Mayor's Office undertook its first comprehensive evaluation and reorganization of the student assignments in 4 decades. So 1 decade later. So the purpose of my role as a advisory committee member is to help assist DME, Deputy Mayor's Office of Education, develop guidelines and principles for student assignments, choice policies and practices, review the data to make sure that it's accurate, if they're actually looking at the correct type of information. For example, looking at census data, looking at 10-year population projections, various considerations. Listen to community and input and try to solicit feedback, and work with them as they develop boundaries for attendance zones, feeder patterns, and school assignments. And the goal of this cycle's initiative is to ensure that students have three things. There's a clear assignments to schools of rights-based on DC attendance zones and feeder patterns. And the second is there's adequate capacity in geographically zoned DCPS facilities. We have overutilization in Ward 3, we have underutilization in Ward 8. We need to think about how we can address those capacity issues. And then the third is to ensure that students have equitable access to high quality public schools. So there's a lot of discussion about that during this advisory committee meetings and during office hours, as well as town hall meetings. What's going to happen is that the advisory committee are charged with providing feedback during this process, providing feedback on as they are creating these policy levers to address the challenges that are identified, providing, helping develop the recommendations, providing their community's feedback on those draft recommendations as they try to address these three goals. DME will present a final boundary study to the mayor, who will identify priority recommendations. And then the Deputy Mayor's Office of Education will also charge agencies to develop implementation plans. So there's recommendations and then implementation plans and then transition period. So I think for me, in thinking about this and how I can help you all is what are the engagement opportunities? And then I will try to get to the substance to help you figure out where we are. The engagement opportunities are, there's a website at the Deputy Mayor's office, and I sent it to the panelists and they will send it to everyone. Or I guess they did send it to everyone. This is the website that was sent to everyone. It has a web link where you as a member of the public can provide direct feedback to the Deputy Mayor's office. They look at everything, they read everything, they're considering everything. So if you have any experiences, any things that you think would be a good recommendation or consideration as they develop the boundaries or feeder patterns, go to this website. There is a link that says provide feedback. If you also want to know what's happening in the process and updated regularly, when, where the DME is going to be, you want to track them and hunt them down and figure out where the public activities are, you can sign up for updates as well. And there's a link there as well to sign up for the updates. However, in addition to those two opportunities, the DME also has or have planned to do 3 town hall meetings. The first one occurred back in May. The second one was supposed to happen sometime in July, but there were so much comments and considerations that they pushed it to September. So the next town hall will happen in September. I think it's probably going to be mid to late September. It will be at a lunchtime. There's usually 2. There's a lunchtime period one at 12 to noon, so like 2 or something, or there's an evening one. They wanted to make it diverse so that people can attend. During this town hall, the next 2 town halls, I think what's going to happen, the goals are to talk about the policy levers and how they impact specific wards. And then the third town hall will likely be the promulgation of their draft recommendation, or they're going to show the draft recommendation. Sorry, I'm kind of like in regulatory framework right now. They're going to release the draft recommendations and solicit feedback from everyone. So these town halls are all the wards. However, they are, once they create these draft recommendations, they're going to go on the road to each ward and particularly focus on the affected communities that are implicated in these recommendations and go directly to those school populations and talk to them to get direct feedback. So that is going to happen sometime this fall, and in terms of the roadshow. So I think that that's a great opportunity. These town hall meetings are just a wonderful opportunity to hear from the Deputy Mayor's office and their contractors where we are, what they're thinking about in terms of the options available. And they're probably going to give you some signaling as to what the options they think recommendations they may be moving towards. I like to read into things a little too much, but who knows? So that's probably what's going to happen in the mid-September to late September next town hall meetings. In addition, if you're really into hearing the rigorous debate of these advisory committees, and just so you know, there's representatives in every one of the 8 wards. Some of the wards have more than one representative because of their student population. So for example, Ward 8 has 3 representatives. I am only one, but we do have a few members that were Ward 1 last year that are now the citywide advisory members. So they have experience there. So so that's where we're at. And let's see. One thing I wanted to highlight in terms of the next event that the DME is going to be presenting is the DCPS Latino Family Committee meeting. It will be happening, let's see, I'm not quite sure. The date of the meeting is on August 1st from 5 to 6, and it's virtual. I will send the link to everyone. Or I think I have a flyer for that. I will send a flyer to your ANC members and they can send it out, but it's addressing the Latino population and trying to get input. So Ward 1 has a large Latino population, and this is a great opportunity to express what you want to see in this student boundary studies. The deputy mayor's office are very open, and they listened. They're great listeners. So I think any input is appreciated and welcomed. Now, substantively, and I have 3 more minutes. Is that okay? Am I going over my time? Okay, cool. Okay, I want to make sure I'm providing helpful information. So where are we in the process? We started the process in March, and we originally were going to be completed in December, but there's just so much to go through. So they extended it till February so that we have more time for more public input and more ways to get it right. Because my motto is do no harm, only make it better. So, so where we're at right now is that we're discussing priority challenges among all the 8 wards. What are the highest level of challenges that we're facing? We're talking about the menu option of policies that could help address these challenges. And then what they hope to do is collect feedback from the community and create a kind of like an impact statement. So how do these policies impact communities? If we're talking about a policy of like changing the out of boundary access, how is this going to impact these populations? How is it going to impact like Jackson Beat? How is it going to impact, you know, other schools, Cardoza, everything? So we're doing there right now. They're in the process of looking at the priority challenges that were identified by the advisory committee as well as the public, and putting these policy options and trying to convey the impact. And so that is the next town hall meeting, is to discuss that. Hopefully it'll be interesting and helpful, we'll know. But I think for what I hope to do is to get a better sense of what impact means and how it impacts Ward 1. Because I right now, everyone's talking in the abstract and no one's showing their cards. So I don't know what is in Ward 1's future in order to say, this is how we're going to be impacted. This is why you should be interested. And this is why it's important to participate in these various activities. Because I feel like organization involves, you know, how am I affected by this? So, so that's where we're at right now. Some of the policy levers that so I'll just very much convey quickly the key challenges that they hope that they have, and then talk about, you know, let's see, I have 2 more minutes. So some of the challenges that we're facing and how they could potentially address them. So there's about 7 key challenges that they initially identified, and it's still going to be modified, but initially they talked about unbalanced enrollments, as I was saying, underutilization, overutilization of different schools. And they want to try to think about how to address that and make sure that there's more better utilization of the school resources. Inequitable access to specialized programming, such as dual language, career training, education, special education. It's also talking about potentially performing arts, international baccalaureate programs. There's an inequity distribution of these programs throughout the whole DC proper. For example, Ward 1, we have a very large Latino population. Many of our dual language schools are in Ward 1. However, there is no dual language in Ward 8. And there's this is a very interesting process in terms of learning about this. And so we're thinking about that. And, originally it was to address the various populations of where they're located, but people are decentralizing. And so let's talk about that more and try to make it more equitable. Inequitable access to consistent and rigorous academics in schools with, so let's see. Let me just make sure some of this language is going to be changed. So inequitable access to consistent, rigorous, and robust academics and programs. So programs means, for example, programs of the arts, programs of, various things that make up a healthy and high functioning school. Originally, this was to talk about accountability scores, but we don't want to talk about scoring and everything. We want to focus on the schools and the kids. Mismatch access to early childhood seats. There's plenty of childhood seats in wards, 6, 7, 8, but in Ward 1, we have many of the schools, elementary schools, and that offer pre-K have a waiting list. In Wards 3, all the schools don't have pre-K 3. They only start at pre-K 4. So this is something that we need to think about in terms of equitable access. Safety to and from schools, within schools. Safety is a huge issue. During the first town hall meeting in May, there was a shooting at Roosevelt. There were 2 lockdowns in different schools in DC, one including Bancroft. And it is safety is a huge issue right now for DC wide, and particularly with schools. And that's something that we keep on emphasizing because it's very important to us. System related enrollment instability and economically and racially ethnic segregated schools. So we're trying to think about these challenges, figure out which ones are the priorities and these policy levers to address that. So I've talked a lot and I want to make myself available for questions. Also, I'm gonna add my email to the chat, and people can reach out to me. One of the things that I want to highlight is I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks, and so if you don't hear from me, it's because I'm out of the country. So I will be back mid-August, but I'm here. Just keep on pinging me. I want to respond. So I'm open to questions if you're getting them. And yeah.
Yeah, I do have questions. So this, I think I'm not a parent myself and I do not have children and clearly do not have kids in the DCPS system. So learning about the different mechanisms and different advisory groups for our parents and for the DC population is really helpful for me as an ANC. So I just curious for Ward 1, you talked about what are the particular issues you think are specifically for Ward 1 that we're facing? And I know some of those probably overlap with what some of the other wards are facing, but is there anything more unique for Ward 1?
So I did have a nice conversation with Jake, your other council, and
he's our parent rep on the ANC.
yeah. So I had an interesting conversation about Mary Reed and the feeder patterns of Mary Reed to either Adams Morgan or Cardoza or Czech, and those are something that I have already taken to the deputy mayor's office and talked about those issues. One of the things that we are looking at is the Euclid Middle School, which is going to be developed.
Is this would this be a new school? Is it currently
it's going
there?
to be a new middle school,
Okay.
and Ward 1 will be feeding into it in addition to Wards 2. So we're thinking, like, we want to see how that is impacting Adams Morgan in particular, or like impacting other Ward 1 feeders. And so that's something that I'm going to do a little bit more exploration and discussion about with respect to ANC 1. I think it's ANC 1D, which is the Mount Pleasant. They are kind of spotlighted in terms of their feeder into Deal and Jackson Reed, and whether that is going to be persistent or that's going to carry over during this session or not. I think that they've been particularly active. Their ANC had written a whole letter and created some findings and conclusions and sent it to Paul Kiln, which is the deputy mayor of education, as well as all the advisory committee members, so that they can consider, keeping their feeder patterns. They've reached out to their Ward 1 rep, Brianne Nadeau. So they're very active because they feel like they're kind of on the hot seat right now. There's other considerations, and Principal Mola, for example, attends our monthly advisory committee meetings. That's something also, if you'd like to learn more about, is you can also listen into these advisory committee meetings every month. They won't have one in August, but it's every month until February. And just to see some of the issues that we're tackling and how comments are being raised. If you feel like there's more considerations that should be raised, feel free to email me and let me know, and I will convey that, or email DM me directly. So yeah. If you think that there's feeder patterns that would benefit your community, that you think would be helpful and that makes sense and are reasonable, feel free to email me and I will share it, or email DM me directly.
And is that something that you mentioned on the website you shared, where people can give comments?
Yes.
Is that something they could comment on there too, about feeder patterns?
You can comment about everything under the sun. Okay. Whatever you feel like saying, hey, it's a great day, they will put it in their comment spreadsheet.
That's dangerous.
But yeah, I think it's, if you want to be effective and very succinct and people will listen to you, I think providing relevant comment is very critical. Yeah, it's the town halls are very interesting. It's very educational in terms of what's going on, what they're thinking about. It's a great opportunity to just jump into it right away, and feel free to provide feedback after.
I do know, and this is sort of it might be it's sort of moot right now because it's going forward, but we have heard a lot from our constituents about the Oyster Adams modernization and and I believe, based on communication we've had with council member Bruto, that it's basically moving forward with the current plans. But I'm guessing that we will definitely have parents who may comment on that in this website where there's taking comments. I don't know how else and other directions to help direct those parents about their concerns with the plans on the remodeling of that school. So there's 3 studies that are happening right now, and I only talked about one. There's also the Master Facilities Plan, the MFP, and that's for every 10 years. That's happening also right now. Okay. The town hall just passed for that. That is
DCPS's 10-year plan of how they're going to address the PACE Act, which is prioritization of school facilities renovation, and what to consider when thinking about allocating resources and figuring out the schools for the next 10 years. So that's the master plan for 10 years of the master facilities. There's also going to be the third study that's starting to kick up maybe sometime in the next couple months is the student capacity study, which is to figure out how much should DC put it account for every child. I think currently it's like $11,000 or $9,000 per child for their education.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at what is the formula for figuring out what a student needs in terms of the budget. So that's going to be coming out, and I can talk about that when it starts happening later. But that's a really interesting one, and that talks more about substance of what is the adequacy of a student. I hate that name, the adequacy. It's like we need more than adequate, but
right. And then this only pertains to DC public schools, not like charters, correct?
Yes, but the thing is, charters impact the feeder and the boundary. I mean, if you want to look at some crazy statistics in like Ward 8, students are traveling 4 miles. Like there's at least, I think 20,000 students in Ward 8 that are traveling an average of 4 miles to their schools. Versus like Ward 1, which is like 1 or 2 miles. It's pretty insane. And there's a high underutilization rate because of the charter schools. So many of the charter schools are, and that's why, again, we are having like, I think in Ward 8, you also have like underutilization of pre-K because there's so many charters, like all the apple trees are opening up there. So they're dealing with all these challenges that we don't have in Ward 1 that we don't have to think about.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Commissioner Van Wy, if you had questions too, I just don't want to dominate here.
No, you keep going. I'm really enjoying the presentation and learning a lot. I too am a non-parent member of the commission, and so this has been a very educational briefing.
I can come back when the recommendations are out to talk about the impact on Adams Morgan community, and we can be in touch with maybe like every 2-month updates or something like that.
I think that would be helpful, and I think coming to, and even we can invite you to like the full ANC meetings that we have once a month, because I think I just want to make sure that we communicate to the commissioners. Sounds like definitely we should advocate to send interested constituents to make comment on the site you sent, and then it sounds like one thing people should, of things they can comment or focus on, particularly the feeder patterns, thinking about master plans for facilities. Is there any other input from Ward 1 that you would advocate or encourage people to comment on? I know you say they can say anything they want. I just don't know if there's anything in particular that would be helpful.
I tend to just be more of a listener as opposed to steering people, because I want their experience to shine out more than what I think they should say. So I tend not to tell them what to advocate. I can tell them how to advocate. And so I can share with you what the ANC 1D sent to the DME, if that's something that you're interested in.
That would be great. And they may have it posted in their, but that would be helpful to see what our neighboring or our neighboring ANC area. I'm sure whatever they're facing and concerned about would be very similar for our Adams Morgan parents.
So thank you so much. It was great talking.
I'm glad that Jake got us in touch. Yes.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Yeah,
bye.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so sort of the backstory. So Commissioner Jones, who can't be here tonight because he's attending to his ailing mother in Kansas City. Since he's lived in the community for quite a while, and he's had a lot of interactions and had this idea about Potter's House and Jubilee Housing and Jobs, because they've both been very active nonprofits in the Adams Morgan community for decades now. And we had a brief meeting with one of the directors at the Potter's House about sort of their history in the community and their sort of activism within the community and their relationship to other things. And so one thing we sort of thought about that would be interesting is having some kind of event at the Potter's House, but I'm a little torn about what it should really be. Because one part of it would be like helping to educate the Adams Morgan community about the role of these different community groups in Adams Morgan. But I also I thought it would be a good way to use it to help connect people with potential resources or ways they can help. And I did notice that, I forget, it's like 2 different ANCs. I think it's 1B and 4 something. I might get this one. They're doing like a tenant resource
fair.
Yeah.
I saw Aaron Palmer posting about that.
Right. And so that was sort of like, I was like, maybe we need to, maybe something similar, but geared towards the Adams Morgan community. But I definitely want to pull in the ties with Potter's House and Jubilee, because they are part of that history and connection for residents. But so they do have a space we can use. I mean, we would have to probably pay a rental fee, but it's at a very reduced price, I think around $200. But Potter's has like a back room that is very nice.
I go to Potter's House all the time. So
they have a back room that's really nice. And we wouldn't pay for catering anything. If people wanted anything, they could just purchase it within Potter's House. Or we could get people to donate money so we can buy a certain amount to have out. But I don't know. Throwing a lot of different directions in my head. And Johnny's not here to like talk through some of what he thought, but they are like, in a sense, Potter's is an institution. They've been there for a very long time. And I think there's so many newer residents in Adams Morgan that would really benefit about learning about their history, as well as Jubilee Jobs. And there's Jubilee Jobs, housing, and there's also childcare. They provide it all. They have their relationship definitely overlaps with Potter's. So the goal was maybe a Saturday in September, but we're not wed to any of that. Because if we want to make it a bit larger and maybe see if we can get a council member to help.
I was going to say we should reach out to, I think like a public-private kind of thing, like a Adams Morgan resource fair or whatever, and we can have Potter's House and Jubilee and maybe a couple of the other. I'm sure there are a couple other like active nonprofits. I think Martha's Table has some like activity in
or Mary's Center.
Mary Center, maybe. I might be lumping those together. And see if we can get Councilmember Nadeau to co-sponsor or attend, maybe a couple of the at-large as well. I think that's a great idea. And having it at Potters, I think, is a great way to bring more attention to perhaps my favorite Adams Morgan institution. So I think it's awesome. Big fan.
Okay, I can start. I need to email, her name is Andrea at Potter's House and I need to get in touch with someone at Jubilee Jobs. I think I have a list of names. That's part of it too, herding all the cats. And if we did it later into the fall, that would get closer to, like in the federal government, there's CFC for donation giving and United Way. And that could give these groups an opportunity to also mention about how to support their work.
Yeah, and we could also probably invite maybe someone from Joseph's house.
Joseph's house and I can't remember the one that's on Columbia Road next to what used to be Chief Ike's Christ House. I think they both are houses. but I learned that a lot of those nonprofits, they're all interrelated with Potters and Jubilee. Like a lot of the
They all came from the same place.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what was really interesting.
I got coffee with I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's like really big on the homeless advocacy Twitter. I can't remember his name. But he walked me through the history of Potter's House when we got coffee at Potter's House a couple of years back. So
okay, and maybe we can reach out to Lauren, that's Councilmember Nadeau's liaison, and see, because I don't know if other areas have this on deck and are doing it, and if they are, we should jump on it or convince them to have it at Potter's House.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we can, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And we can also reach out to some of the other ANCs that have been doing similar events and sort of see if they have a formula. You know, I'm sure we're not inventing the wheel here necessarily. And so maybe get some tips and tricks.
And then this partially because Commissioner Jones had wanted or thought it would be nice of us to do like a resolution to recognize Potter's contributions to the community. I think we're not at a draft for that yet because I need to understand more of that. But if we went down that path, that was also, we could use this meeting time to present them with that, just to that the ANC recognizes their contributions. But I feel like we might need to do that for other groups too. So
yeah, I think we can. If we invite other groups, then perhaps it could be a broader resolution recognizing. Yeah. But I also think that's giving people some kudos for the hard work that they do. There's not a ton that we as the ANC can do for them, but the feather in the cap is always nice.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to sort of get ideas going so we can move on it. And then we won't meet in August, don't worry. But we might have to have I know, because we need to make our meetings public to talk about this. So if we do a planning meeting, we can just do it at Potter's House actually. And then if other people want to join, they're welcome to. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
But I think that's all I had. I do know that this weekend is the first of 4. I should know this. I do pay attention to the bid stuff. I know Brian's on the line. First pedestrian zone is this weekend. So
Brian, how many are there? Can you throw it in the chat?
4. I know the second one's on Adams Morgan Day. 3. There are 3. Yeah. July, and then September. It coincides with Adams Morgan Day, and then one more. Yeah.
I will definitely be there. Patroning far too many restaurants. I'm very excited. Can't wait. All
right. Porch Fest. Thank you. That's the other one. Thank you.
Right.
I will remember. All right. Well, thank you. It's good to hear about schools. Got some planning about other stuff, and